Welcome to the world of science fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss new stories. Enjoy the listening. Paul Foster's fingers hovered over his keyboard, frozen in mid-air as the holographic message flickered before his eyes. The alien script morphed into English, its contents burning into his retinas. Zorak is dead. You are his heir. Come to Proxima B immediately. Paul blinked, his mind reeling. Zorak! His extraterrestrial pen pal of 5 years, dead. And he, a simple Boston programmer, was the heir. It had to be a joke, but as the days passed and more messages arrived, each authenticated by codes only he and Zorak knew, the reality sank in. This was happening. 2 weeks later, Paul found himself aboard an interstellar transport, hurtling through the void towards Proxima Centauri. The journey passed in a blur of cryo-sleep and brief, bewildering moments of consciousness. As the ship began its descent to Proxima B, Paul pressed his face against the viewport. The alien world loomed before him, a tapestry of deep purples and swirling silver clouds. His heart raced. This was real. This was happening. The ship touched down with a gentle thud. Paul swallowed hard, adjusting his Earth-style suit, a poor fit for the alien atmosphere, but the best he could manage on short notice. The airlock hissed open, and he stepped out onto alien soil for the first time. A small welcoming party waited for him. 2 figures stood out immediately, their alien beauty taking his breath away. One, tall and lithe with shimmering blue skin, regarded him with piercing silver eyes. The other, shorter with iridescent scales and graceful pendrils framing her face, offered a warm smile that set him at ease. Look up, Paul Foster, the taller one said, her voice melodious yet tinged with an otherworldly resonance. I am Azura, first wife of Zorak, and I am Lyria, the other added, her tone softer. Almost musical, second wife of Zorak, and now, along with my sister wife, your inheritance. Paul's jaw dropped. What? Wives? Zorak never mentioned. Azura's eyes flashed. There is much Zorak did not tell you, it seems. Come, we have much to discuss. They led him to a sleek vehicle that hovered silently above the ground. As they sped towards the city, Paul's mind whirled with questions. The landscape outside was alien yet hauntingly beautiful, all twisting spires and floating gardens. I don't understand, Paul finally managed. Why would Zorak leave everything to me? We were friends. Sure, but this is insane. Lyria placed a gentle hand on his arm, sending an electric tingle through his body. Zorak saw something in you, Paul, something special. He believed you could bridge our worlds. But why me? Paul insisted. I'm just a programmer. I don't know anything about your world, your customs. I can't even breathe your air without help. Azura's gaze pierced him. Perhaps that is precisely why. A fresh perspective, untainted by our complexities. The vehicle slowed, approaching a towering structure that seemed to defy gravity. Crystalline, spires twisted upwards, connected by gossamer bridges that sparkled in the alien sunlight. Welcome to your new home, Lyria said softly. Paul stepped out, craning his neck to take in the full scope of the building. This is mine. Ours, Azura corrected, a hint of challenge in her voice. Remember, we are part of your inheritance as well. Paul flushed, unsure how to respond. Look, about that, on Earth, we don't exactly... We are aware of Earth customs, Lyria interjected gently. But you are no longer on Earth. Paul! Foster, here you must learn new ways. They entered the building, and Paul gasped. The interior was a marvel of alien architecture and technology. Holographic displays flickered to life as they passed, showing data streams he couldn't begin to comprehend. This was Zorak's primary residence, Azura explained, and his main research facility. The work he was doing here, it could change everything. Research? Paul asked. What kind of research? Lyria and Azura exchanged a glance. That, Lyria said carefully, is a conversation for another time. For now, you must rest. The journey has been long, and there is much to absorb. They showed him to a spacious room with a view that took in the alien cityscape. Paul sank onto a bed that seemed to mold itself to his body. Paul's heart began to race as the realization hit him. This was not just an inheritance. This was integration, becoming part of their world in the most intimate way possible. That night, in the soft glow of alien lamps, Azura and Lyria introduced him to their customs of closeness. Their bodies were like works of art, each curve and line a testament to their grace and beauty. Azura and Lyria embodied the ideal of beauty, but there was something more about them that struck to the core. Paul felt a mixture of awe and excitement standing before them, his heart beating in time with their breath. He knew this moment would change Him forever! Azura was the first to approach. Her movements were graceful and confident like a predator. Her skin glowed under the soft light of the lamps, creating the illusion that she was surrounded by a faint, luminous halo. She was tall and slender. Each step she took was filled with strength and certainty. Azura touched his arm, her fingers cool and assured. A wave of excitement surged through Paul's body at her touch. Her touch was both commanding and tender, as if she knew his every thought and desire. Lyria, on the other hand, was the epitome of delicacy and gentleness. Her hair was like a cascade of silver, shimmering under the light flowing down her back. Her eyes were violet, deeply penetrating, with something hypnotic and captivating about them. She moved closer, her movements fluid and elegant like a dancer. Her touch was soft and teasing. She seemed to envelop him in her warmth and tenderness. Together, Azura and Lyria guided Paul through a ritual that was both overwhelming and exhilarating. Their connection was immediate, electric. They welcomed him into their world, their traditions, and their bed with an openness that left him breathless. Lyria leaned in, her lips just an inch from his ear, and whispered something in her language. Her voice was melodic and hypnotic, making Paul want to submit to her will. She ran her hands down his shoulders to his chest, her touch firm and assured. Paul felt his body responding to her commands. His breathing quickened. Lyria stood beside him, her eyes fixed on him. She slowly ran her fingers down his back, her touch soft, almost tickling. Paul felt his skin react to her touch, covered in goosebumps. Her touches were like a gentle breeze, awakening feelings and emotions he couldn't control. Azura and Lyria moved in, sync, their bodies merging into one harmonious dance. Paul felt them guiding him, their movements coordinated and confident. Azura held his hand firmly, her eyes full of determination. She led him, her touches full of strength and certainty. Lyria, on the other hand, was gentle and caring, her touches light and soothing. Paul felt his body and mind begin to merge with their world. He sensed the warmth of their bodies, their breath, their emotions. The touches were like electric shocks, awakening new feelings and desires within him. He felt part of something great and significant. In this intimate setting, under the light of alien lamps, Paul felt his bond with Azura and Lyria growing deeper and stronger. Their bodies were the embodiment of ideal beauty and harmony, their movements coordinated and confident, their voices melodic and hypnotic. They were his guides into a new world, their touches and exclamations awakening feelings within him he never knew he had. This night was filled with passion and intimacy, each of their touches, each sigh and exclamation, leaving a deep imprint on his heart and soul. Paul felt himself becoming part of their world, their culture, their traditions. Azura and Lyria welcomed him with such openness and warmth that he felt desired and needed. He was ready to embrace their world, their traditions, and their love. This night marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life, one he would remember forever. Paul felt that he was now more than just an heir. He had become part of their world, their culture, and their hearts. The next few days passed in a whirlwind of new experiences. Paul struggled to adapt to the alien gravity, the strange food, the complex social customs that seemed to govern every interaction. Azura and Lyria were patient teachers, but he could sense their frustration at times. No. Azura sighed one evening as Paul fumbled with a piece of alien technology. You must feel the energy flow, not just manipulate it blindly. Paul gritted his teeth. I'm trying, but none of this makes sense to me. On Earth we don't have whatever this is. Perhaps that is your problem, Lyria suggested gently. You are still thinking like an Earthling. You must open your mind to new possibilities. As the days wore on, Paul began to notice odd occurrences, whispered conversations that stopped when he entered a room, strange signals on the communication devices he was learning to use, and always the sense that he was being watched. One night, unable to sleep, Paul wandered the halls of his new home. He found himself in Zorak's study, a room he hadn't yet explored fully. As he ran his hand along the alien desk, something clicked, and a hidden compartment sprang open. Inside was a data crystal, unlike any he'd seen before. With trembling hands, he inserted it into the nearest console. Zorak's face appeared, grave and urgent. Paul, if you're seeing this, then I am dead. And the situation is dire. The inheritance I've left you is more than just wealth and property. It's a responsibility, a mission. There are forces at work that threaten both our worlds, and you are the key to stopping them. The message cut off abruptly as alarms began to blare throughout the building. Paul spun around to find Azura and Lyria in the doorway, their faces masks of concern. They're here, Azura hissed. Kronos agents. We must go now. As they raced through the halls, the sound of breaking glass and shouted orders echoed behind them. Paul's heart pounded. Who was Kronos? What did they want? And most importantly, what had Zorak gotten him into? As they reached a hidden exit, Paul knew one thing for certain. His life would never be the same again. The alien landscape of Proxima B stretched before Paul, Azura, and Lyria as their hover. Vehicles skimmed over the purple plains. Paul's eyes darted from the swirling silver clouds above to the crystalline formations jutting from the ground, still struggling to believe. This wasn't some elaborate dream. Where exactly are we going? Paul asked, breaking the tense silence that had fallen since their narrow escape from Kronos agents. Azura's silver eyes locked onto him. To the sacred caves of Luminara. If Zorak left any clues about his research and why Kronos is after it, we'll find them there. Lyria leaned forward, her iridescent scales shimmering. The caves are special, Paul. They're said to amplify latent abilities in some species, including humans. Paul's brow furrowed. What kind of abilities? That, Azura said with a hint of a smile, remains to be seen. As they approached the mountains, Paul noticed strange symbols carved into the rock's face. They seemed to pulse with an inner light, growing brighter as they drew near. We go on foot from here, Lyria announced, bringing the vehicle to a stop. They trekked through winding passages, the air growing thicker with an odd, sweet-smelling mist. Paul's head swam, his senses heightened to an almost painful degree. "We're here," Azura whispered, her voice echoing in the cavernous space they'd entered. The cave was a marvel of natural beauty, crystals of every color refracting light in dazzling patterns. At its center stood a raised dais, surrounded by more of the pulsing symbols. "What now?" Paul asked, his voice sounding strange to his own ears. Lyria took his hand, sending a jolt through his body. "Now, we perform the unity ritual. It's the only way to unlock the cave's secrets." Paul hesitated, but the urgency in Azura's eyes pushed him forward. They positioned themselves on the dais, forming a triangle. As Azura began to chant in an alien tongue, the symbols around them flared to life. A wave of energy washed over Paul, and suddenly he wasn't just hearing Azura's thoughts. He was feeling them, experiencing her memories as if they were his own. Lyria's consciousness joined them, and for a moment they were one being, sharing every thought, every emotion. When it ended, Paul gasped, falling to his knees. What? What was that?" Azura helped him up, her touch lingering. "The awakening of your latent abilities, it seems. Zorak theorized humans had untapped potential. It appears he was right." As they explored deeper into the cave system, Paul found he could sense things beyond normal perception, faint whispers of past events, echoes of emotions left behind. It was overwhelming but exhilarating. "Here," Lyria called, pointing to a hidden alcove. "I sense Zorak's energy." They discovered a cache of data crystals, each pulsing with information. As Paul touched them, images flooded his mind, complex equations, star charts, and glimpses of a device of incredible power. "This is it," Azura breathed. "Zorak's life work, the key to balancing the energies between our worlds." Before they could celebrate, a rumble shook the cave. Dust and small rocks rained down as harsh voices echoed from the entrance. "Kronos," Lyria hissed. "They found us!" They raced through the tunnels, Paul's newfound abilities guiding them through shortcuts he somehow knew existed. They burst out of a hidden exit, only to find themselves surrounded by armed figures in sleek, black armor. Tall, imposing alien stepped forward, his skin a deep crimson. "Hand over Zorak's research," he growled, "or face the consequences." Paul's mind raced, reaching out with his new senses. He could feel the other aliens' intentions, their fears, their weaknesses. Without fully understanding how, he projected a burst of psychic energy. The attackers stumbled, clutching their heads. In the confusion, Azura and Lyria sprang into action, their movements a blur of deadly precision. Paul joined the fray, his body moving with a grace and strength he'd never possessed before. In the aftermath of the battle, as they caught their breath and tended to minor wounds, Paul felt a new closeness to Azura and Lyria. They'd faced danger together, fought as one. The bond forged in the cave had been tempered in fire. "We need to get off-world," Azura said urgently. "Kronos will send reinforcements. We must take Zorak's research somewhere safe." They made their way to a hidden hangar where a sleek alien vessel waited. As they boarded, Paul marveled at the ship's organic design, so different from the clunky Earth vessels he was used to. "Zorak's personal ship," Lyria explained as they strapped in. state-of-the-art and virtually undetectable as they broke atmosphere. Paul's newfound abilities surged. He could sense the ship as if it were an extension of his own body. Without thinking, he placed his hands on the control panel, and the ship responded, accelerating faster than should have been possible. In the zero gravity of space, Paul, Azura, and Lyria floated freely in the ship's main chamber. Their movements brought them close together, and Paul felt the energy between them shift, becoming charged with possibility. Suddenly, the ship lurched, alarms blaring. Paul's hand brushed against the hidden panel, and a holographic display sprang to life. Ancient symbols swirled before them, rearranging themselves into a complex diagram. "By the stars," Azura whispered. "It's the full blueprint of Zorak's device, the harmonic resonator." As the diagram rotated, Paul's enhanced mind began to grasp its implications. This isn't just about wealth or power, he realized aloud. This device, it could reshape reality itself. Lyria nodded gravely. "Now you understand the true nature of your inheritance, Paul. Zorak entrusted you with the power to maintain balance between our worlds, or to destroy them both." The weight of responsibility settled on Paul's shoulders. He looked at Azura and Lyria, seeing them now not just as beautiful aliens or unexpected companions, but as partners in a mission that would determine the fate of two civilizations. "So what's our next move?" he asked, his voice steady with newfound determination. Azura's eyes gleamed with a mixture of pride and concern. "We find the components to build the resonator before Kronos does. And then, Paul Foster, we save the universe." As the ship hurtled through the star-studded void, Paul knew that his journey had only just begun. The mystery of Zorak's death, the threat of Kronos, and the awesome power now at his fingertips, all of it converged into a destiny he never could have imagined. With Azura and Lyria by his side, he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The massive view screen aboard Zorak's ship flickered to life, revealing Kronos' crimson face twisted in a sneer of triumph. Paul's stomach clenched as he realized the gravity of their situation. "You've led me on quite a chase, human," Kronos growled, his voice resonating through the ship's comms system. "But playtime is over. Surrender Zorak's research and the harmonic resonator, or watch as both your pitiful Earth and Proxima B burn." Paul's eyes darted to Azura and Lyria, seeing his own fear reflected in their alien features. He swallowed hard. "Buying time? You're bluffing. You don't have that kind of firepower." Kronos' laughter sent chills down Paul's spine. "Oh, but I do." The view shifted, showing a massive fleet of warships surrounding both planets, courtesy of some influential friends who'd rather see both our worlds destroyed than united. "You have 1 hour to decide." The screen went dark, plunging the trio into tense silence. "He's not bluffing," Azura said, her silver eyes hard. "Those ships have enough firepower to crack both planets' crusts." Lyria's tendrils writhed in agitation. "We can't let that happen. Billions will die." Paul's mind raced, grappling with the enormity of the situation. "There has to be a way to stop him. The resonator isn't complete," Azura finished. "We're missing crucial components." Paul closed his eyes. Reaching out with his newfound abilities, he could feel the ship humming around him, the distant pulse of the planets, and something else, a connection, forged in the caves of Luminara, linking him to Azura and Lyria. His eyes snapped open. "Maybe we don't need the physical resonator." What if we are the resonator?" Lyria's eyes widened in understanding. "The unity ritual. It didn't just awaken your abilities, Paul. It linked us." "Exactly," Paul said, excitement building. Zorak's research was all about harmonics, right? Creating resonance between different energy patterns. What if we can do that ourselves? Azura nodded slowly. "It's possible, but the energy required, it could kill us." Paul set his jaw. "Better us than 2 entire worlds." They positioned themselves in a triangle, just as they had in the sacred cave. Paul reached out, both physically and mentally, grasping Azura and Lyria's hands. The connection flared to life. "Stronger than ever? Focus on the planets," Paul instructed, his voice strained. "Feel their energy. We need to create a harmonic field around them." As they concentrated, Paul felt power building within him. Unlike anything he'd experienced before, it coursed through his body, threatening to tear him apart. He gritted his teeth, pushing through the pain. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the ship. Kronos' fleet had opened fire. "It's not enough," Azura gasped. "We need more power." Paul's mind raced. The ship, Zorak's technology. It was all part of the inheritance. Part of him now. With a mental command, he linked the ship's systems into their energy matrix. The view screen flickered to life, showing a shimmering field beginning to form around Earth and Proxima b, but it was still too weak to repel Kronos' assault. Paul, Lyria's voice was barely a whisper. The final piece of the inheritance. Your Earth memories, your connection to your home. It's the bridge between worlds Zorak knew we'd need. Paul understood, with a pang of grief. He realized what he had to sacrifice. Closing his eyes, he opened his mind fully, offering up every memory, every connection to his old life. The energy surged, and Paul screamed as he felt parts of himself burning away. The ship shuddered as Kronos' forces realized what was happening and concentrated their fire on them. But it was too late. A blinding flash filled the view screen. When it faded, Earth and Proxima b were encased in shimmering, impenetrable fields of energy. Kronos' weapons bounced harmlessly off the surface. No, Kronos' enraged face appeared on the screen. "What have you done?" Paul stepped forward, his body glowing with residual energy. "We've done what Zorak always intended, united our worlds against those who destroy them." With a thought, Paul reached out through the energy field, seizing control of Kronos' ships. "It's over. Kronos, surrender, or I'll send you and your fleet into the nearest sun." Kronos' face contorted with rage, but he knew he was beaten. "This isn't the end," he snarled before cutting the transmission. As the adrenaline faded, Paul stumbled, caught by Azura and Lyria's steadying hands. "Did we do it?" he asked, his voice weak. Lyria nodded, tears in her eyes. "We did. Both worlds are safe." Azura's voice was filled with wonder, and more than that. "Look." The view screen showed the energy fields around Earth and Proxima, B pulsing in perfect synchronization. Where they touched, a bridge of pure light formed between the planets. "Zorak's final gift," Azura breathed, "a way for our worlds to truly connect." As Paul watched the bridge of light, fragmented memories flickered through his mind. Earth, his old life, it was there, but distant now, like a half-remembered dream. He realized the sacrifice he'd made to save both worlds. "What now?" he asked, looking at Azura and Lyria. Lyria smiled gently. "Now we rebuild." "And you, Paul Foster, will lead the way." Azura nodded. "You're the bridge between our worlds now. The guardian of this new alliance." Paul took a deep breath, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. But as he looked at Azura and Lyria, he knew he wouldn't face it alone. 1 year later, Paul stood on the balcony of the newly constructed Embassy of Earth on Proxima b. The alien sun cast a purple glow over the landscape, so familiar now, yet still capable of taking his breath away. Behind him, he heard the soft footsteps of Azura and Lyria approaching. Their presence filled him with warmth, the bond between them stronger than ever. "The first transport from Earth will be arriving soon," Lyria said, her voice tinged with excitement. Paul nodded, a mix of emotions swirling within him. "Hard to believe it's been a year since we activated the bridge." Azura placed a hand on his shoulder. "You've done remarkably well. Adapting to your new role, Zorak would be proud." Paul smiled, thinking of his old friend. The mystery of Zorak's death had been solved in the months following their victory. He had sacrificed himself to set these events in motion, knowing that only through crisis could their worlds truly unite. "There's still so much to do," Paul said, gazing at the buffling city below. "Kronos is still out there, and there will always be those who fear change. But we face it together," Lyria reminded him, taking his hand. Azura nodded, her silver eyes gleaming, as Zorak intended. 3 beings from different worlds united in purpose. As the first streaks of light announced the arrival of the Earth transport, Paul felt a surge of hope. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges he could scarcely imagine. But with Azura and Lyria by his side, and the combined strength of 2 worlds behind him, he was ready to face whatever the universe had in store. The bridge between Earth and Proxima b pulsed with energy, a testament to what could be achieved when different worlds came together, and at its center stood Paul, Azura, and Lyria, guardians, partners and pioneers of a new era of interplanetary cooperation.